Pizza, hey? What do you think about pizza?
Pizza.
You got thoughts about pizza?
I have wariness and stress and a lot of ambition around pizza. We are bringing it into the
I don't
coffee
think,
shop.
okay, I was just say I don't think I've ever heard somebody describe pizza in that way. I have lots of, what did you say, anxiety and stress
Maybe, yeah.
around pizza.
Well, I keep saying to people I don't love the pizza in Fiji. So,
Mm. What
because
don't you like about pizza?
I don't like that it just tastes like cheese. I want it to
Mm.
taste like more. I want it to have a little oomph to it. So that's what we're kind of hoping to deliver at
Yeah.
our coffee shop. We'll see if we can actually do that.
Yeah, rewinding. We're going to be serving pizza in the next, few weeks here?
We'd like to
No.
say a few weeks. We're waiting for a piece of equipment that will keep the pizza hot so we can sell it by the slice
Yeah.
at the store. And then we can order large pizzas. So we're testing those out Monday. And we're going to see how it goes. And we're going to try and see who's our biggest critic. Tells the good, the bad, and the ugly, and what they like.
Yeah.
And then we'll kind of go from there and see what we serve. So.
Yeah. This episode is brought to you by Fresh Tea and Coffee, but more on that later. We will be serving fresh pizza. And I haven't seen it before in Fiji where you can just go and get pizza by the slice, where like pizza has already been made like within the last hour or two, and you just can walk in, see what kind of pizza you want. It'll be displayed there and just order a slice for like $5 or whatever, and you get like a big slice pizza and you're ready to go within like 30 seconds, a minute.
Yeah, it's been interesting. Like people starting businesses in Fiji, you have to kind of look at what's local, what's available to you in the everyday market, what you can actually get access to through the wet season, through the dry season, vegetables, the meat, especially we're on the second largest island in Fiji. So we don't have access to all the things that a lot of people have that get imported. We did see on Facebook today
Yes,
that
I was going to talk
the
about that.
extra grocery stores maybe coming to Limbasa, which I can't wait.
I know.
John even woke me up from my nap.
You're not happy about that.
I was not happy. I'm a little bit sick. So
I just thought you'd be
off.
super stoked about that.
I'm sick and I was having a nap, hoping to recover and feel great about my life tonight. And then John threw laundry on me and then came back 20 minutes later and then was like, Steph,
Wake up.
extras coming to Limbasa and I can't wait. Because all he is thinking.
So extra is like is a groceries, for those of you who don't know, is like kind of like is a grocery store chain that just has a lot of things that Stephanie is familiar with, or things that like
it's like the hoity-toity grocery store of Fiji where you can get Worcestershire sauce for like $20, which I'm not spending that. I'm going to the other grocery store to get the cheaper one that tastes just as good. But then they have all these different brands that you can get.
Yeah, it's not so much about like getting expensive brands. It's more just like different things.
Things
like,
that they bring in that you don't have access to in the other grocery stores.
And it's not because we can't shop at the other stores. We've been doing that for the last 3 years. It's just that the recipes that you grew up knowing or making, they just have different foods that aren't always available in Fiji. And extra, in our experience, maybe extra Vanua Levu will be a bit more different.
Yeah, it probably will be. And I'm trying not to have high expectations. So in Canada, we come from a really multicultural country. It's a melting pot. So you have every country in the world immigrates into Canada.
Many countries.
Yeah. So we
I don't know about every country. That might be a bit of exaggeration.
I'm going to go with every country because we have, if you go to Vancouver, you can get any style of food. You can go to you can.
You meet a lot of Antarcticans in Vancouver?
Well, it is a country of snow and ice, so I'm going to say you could probably find it. But I can cook Greek food, German food, Italian food, I don't know, Norwegian food.
Thai food.
I can cook Thai food. So it's nice to have some like ingredients that you can't get in Fiji in the typical local store. To be honest, when we moved here, my father-in-law took us shopping for the first week. And I walked into RB Patel and I had a bit of a panic attack just kind of looking at all the canned, or as you say in Fiji, tin foods. Kind of going, where's the groceries? What am I supposed to buy? What do I cook here?
Well, there's a huge push like from in Canada and those kind of places where like everybody pushes for like fresh and organic, especially right now. Organic is huge, but fresh produce, fresh this and fresh that, and never frozen this.
Yeah.
And it's like that's not an option for in our island. Probably 50% of the population doesn't have access to a fridge, and so when it comes to like a grocery store that would just have a bunch of fresh stuff and very little canned stuff, they wouldn't get any business.
Yeah, it's
because
not reasonable.
Like our house didn't have a fridge until a year after we moved in or something. We
I
bought a fridge.
I don't think it was that long, but it was a long time.
Yeah, so we didn't have a fridge for a while, and most people still don't have fridge in our village.
Yeah, I think we're currently the only people that have refrigeration of any sort in our village. And I will say it's hard. Like, I remember coming in and not understanding kind of how the heat and humidity reacts to vegetables and buying even just like 2 watermelons.
How does it react?
It destroys them. Like I bought like 2 to 3 watermelons and John's like, what are you doing? And I was like, well, the kids love watermelon. So then we'll have watermelon for the week and they can just eat as much watermelon as their little hearts desire. And within a couple days, we had like one that was rotting. And John's just like, see, this is why you don't do that. And, we come from a country that has most of the year is cold. We have our fridges outside our front door. To be honest, like a lot of times if we were out of like deep freeze space, we just take a bin.
It's so true. Well, that's what we do at Christmas, right?
Throw all your meat and your leftovers outside the front door in a bin and it's frozen. And you don't need an extra deep or an extra fridge. You have the snow. You have it's homemade. It's God-given. So
I miss those days.
Do you really?
No, absolutely not. When we went home to visit, we're like, not like missing it, like, oh, we're like the heat. It would be so nice to go to the cold. One day in the cold, I'm like, the heat's not that bad, eh?
7 weeks of like shivering and putting socks on. I had one night where my mother-in-law gave me a heater and I shut the door, turned the heater on full blast and went under a blanket and I just like baked myself.
Oh my gosh,
and it was so good. I felt amazing.
It was so hot. Speaking of the weather, because weather is such an interesting thing for everybody to talk to and everybody wants to hear about the weather. Not. It's been so rainy here. So rainy, and we run on solar obviously in this house.
So we are sitting in the dark.
Yeah. You guys can check the stories because that's what it looks like. I've taken a video of what we look like sitting in the living room here in the dark tonight. And it just so happens that one of our solar units, inverters, has decided to take a little break.
Classic.
So we had to take it to the shop. So we're down to one system, and that system is the one that powers the fridge, and it is also dead. So we're in the dark.
So it's actually good. We have 2 systems that we run off of. The first system is our what we call old system that we installed quite a few years ago now.
Yeah, like 4 or 5 years. Ran
lights and basic things.
Mm-hmm.
And then the new system is a higher capacity system and runs our refrigerator.
Yeah.
And obviously if the sun's going strong, it's great. It has been a good thing that we have 2 systems because one has a problem. We still, some have a backup system. So I'm actually happy with the way that happened. If you have one system with solar and you have the inverter cack out or batteries aren't working, then you have 0 power.
Wow, that is such a Stephanie term.
What?
If one system cacks out? Please define cack.
Dies. It's like a choking motion, like if someone's choking you and you're like...
You're getting cacked?
That's cacking out.
If...
It's like you got
if a bouncer cacks you?
Yeah, you got choked out to death and it's barely surviving.
Okay.
That's
Let's add that to the dictionary.
You're welcome, everybody.
All right. And yesterday we went spearfishing, and it was like, the ocean's like just over the one mountain range or like hills, and on the ocean it rained in the morning once, and that was it. It was like beautiful weather for the rest of the day, and then Stephanie's like checking in on us, and we're like, what's going on? And like she's like, oh, school's been canceled. The kids had to get sent home early because the weather's so bad and flooding, and we're literally 45 minutes away, and it's like a beautiful day on the ocean.
Yeah, I was gonna go with the boys, but I have a bit of a head cold, and I just thought like I already have permanent allergies in Fiji, so my ears are really sensitive. I get ear infections all the time. So I thought, you know what, a terrible day for me to be in the water all day, on the ocean all day. So I'll just stay home. And Seven, I can't go if I'm not there watching him full time. So we just stayed, and he went to school. And then I was in our new office just cleaning toilets and scrubbing floors. And then I got a phone call saying that Seven I was at home.
Surprise.
And there's nobody to watch him. So I had to run home. But it was pouring rain. It was pretty intense. And I think they had a weather advisory out. And something that happens in Fiji that's kind of interesting is like we are multiple islands within the country, but there's one school system. You can correct me. I'm going to say this wrong, but like if Nandi has to shut down because there's flooding in Nandi, that affects the entire country.
That I don't know if that's all the time, but that's what I've seen, like especially through like the hurricanes and stuff like that. And was that how it was the other day? Like all of Fiji?
Yeah, so there was a school ministry, I can't remember, Ministry of School or whatever it's called.
Ministry of Education.
Yes. They put out a notice. Our manager at the coffee shop told me, oh yeah, they put out a notice that there was a weather advisory. And obviously we all had a lot of rain, but there was no flooding in our area. And I was saying like, I'm a little bit confused what's happening. Why are we shutting down? You know, it's heavy rain, but we are in the rainy season.
It's an interesting situation, kind of like going off of that, because Fiji is such a small nation, and when you go to these bigger countries, like they divide and delegate with like to regions, because like say in Canada, you can't have the whole of Canada being managed by one Ministry of Education, because the east coast of Canada is like 5 days of driving without stopping from the other side of Canada. And so things are very different on one coast, like worlds apart weather-wise, than on the other side.
Well, and keep in mind, we are the second largest country in the world.
Right,
in Canada, yeah.
So everything is split up into provinces, and then those provinces are split up into regions, which are split up into cities. And even inside cities, they have different school districts. And so when you have like all of Fiji being a very small country population-wise and landmass-wise, but spread out over many different islands, the weather can still be very different from like say if you're in Rotuma than to when you're in Kandavu. Like you can have such different weather, but if it's all like under the same school system, or even just say from Viti Levu to Vanua Levu, if we're having like severe flooding in Vanua Levu, they can be having like, you know, beautiful conditions in Viti Levu down in the west and whatever, but you know, they have to fall under the same rule set. And so I've seen this now, like even after the election, you know, the new government's been saying that they're going to split, it sounds like, more into like regional kind of like smaller management units, which will be a lot of work. I just think that is a privilege for like fully developed countries to have like regionally managed systems like that. So I don't know, like I think Fiji's doing, like, we do the best we can because like budgets aren't endless, but the downfall is that like you get like rain warnings and like school cancellations in one part of the country. It's kind of like everybody has to go home, even if the weather's good somewhere else, right?
Yeah, and I guess like I felt like an extra long school break. You know, we were behind because of COVID. We didn't have a lot of school, so to have a shutdown because of rain that wasn't that severe, you know, it just kind of, it's hard with the kids. We're trying to get the momentum back into the school season and get them educated, and there's a lot of brilliant people in the country. So it's sad to, you know, see them on the back foot of education, because the kids in our village are really smart, and it's really great to see them, you know, excelling in school and pursuing their dreams after the fact that they get that done. But yeah, we'll kind of see how that all unfolds this year. Hopefully we don't have too bad of weather and we don't have to push off school more so. But how was your day of fishing? How was the weather over there? We were at Nukumbati Resort, or you guys were at Nukumbati, not me.
Yeah, so our friends there, they're going out diving because they needed to, or diving meaning spearfishing, not with tanks, just to be clear, because that is very illegal. So we were free diving, but yeah, so they had to restock their freezers for the hotel, and so they asked me if I wanted to come out. So we went out there, and yeah, the weather was sick. It was so nice. Fishing was probably average at best. I think because of the weather, like it seemed like a bit of a low pressure system, so the fishing wasn't the best, but it was fun.
Yeah, but you had a Leaky with you. How'd he do?
Yeah, so I took a Leaky with us. We filmed a vlog. Leaky,
He's 6.
yeah, he's 6, and he came out like he loves water. He's kind of like you apparently when you were small, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And so he just like, it's just like he loves the feeling of water on his skin. And like you can just see when he's in the water, he just like, he feels good. Like he's just smiling, and he doesn't want to get out. He just like, it's like he just loves, like when he dives down, it's just like he loves the feeling of water on his skin.
Yeah, that's kind of like how I describe, like when I was a kid, I used to spend a lot of time underwater. I love the feeling of being underwater and like fully submerged and diving, and I could just spend hours.
She's weird
in there.
She's weird.
Yeah, well, maybe I was supposed to be a mermaid.
Yeah. You're my mermaid.
I used to have the hair for it, but I dropped that off. It's too hot in Fiji. So
yeah, and mermaids don't have purple hair.
Yeah.
Or do they?
One day.
Yeah.
I think they do. I think that's way cooler.
Oh, okay.
Anyway.
So Leaky went out. Yeah, I took him spearfishing with the gun and everything, and we took a bunch of shots at fish. He didn't get anything this time, but
he has before, and it's not always a for sure thing, and it's definitely difficult going out with a small kid, getting them to line up properly. And
yeah, it's just a matter of time before he like gets the hang of it.
And you don't take him out very often.
No, like I think consistency is important, even though it's definitely a lot of extra work, and like you have to keep an eye on him when he's on the boat and make sure he has like his life jacket on, like, so, but it's worth it, because I remember being a kid with, my dad getting me into fishing, and my earliest ever memory, like actually my earliest memory, like number one, is standing with Dad on a rock in Canada, casting a rod into the river. It's like my first ever memory.
I don't know if that's my first ever memory. I have a lot of memories fishing with my dad as well.
It'd be really weird if your first memory was fishing and you don't go fishing.
Oh, I don't like lake fishing. Give me like ocean fishing is great. And I will say, I get gypped in this whole situation. You have a bunch of friends that are like, let's go fishing. And then all the girls are like, yeah, let's hang back and hang out, which I'm fine with. But I would love to go fishing as well. Mm-hmm. So I feel like that's not fair.
Hence why you're going to a surf camp.
Yeah, March, I'm going to a surf camp. It's a ladies only surf camp, which is cool. It's mixed with yoga. I'm not really much of a yogi, but I'm sure that'll be great. It'll be sore after surfing, so
stretch out
in the morning.
Yeah.
But I'm excited. I'm gonna try. I'm not really good with the technical side of podcasting and such, but I'm gonna try to interview my friend Olivia. She's great. We've met her in Savo. She's actually sailing around Fiji and has been for the last couple of years by herself in a sailboat.
Fiji? Around the world.
She came all the way from New York. She's in her mid-30s. She's by herself, which I would say takes definitely a lot of courage. I would never do that. I think she's nuts, but she's lovely and really exciting. So I'm hoping that she will be our first guest on the podcast, just to see kind of how her experience has been. She's really like adventurous. She's just like told me stories about like stopping in villages and having like these wild experiences, having her boat robbed and all her camera gear stolen, and her having to like stock all that stuff down and like go through a process of getting it back. She's been out in the middle of the ocean for 10 days with no motor and no wind and just stuck out in the ocean. So she's a wild one, and I think she'll be really interesting to have on here. And she loves Fiji, so I'm kind of...
She's been here for like 2 years, I think, now.
Yeah. And she could go anywhere. She has a boat.
Obviously, we're in Fiji, so we only know the people that stop in Fiji, but there are quite a few people who like are sailing around the world, and then they get to Fiji, and they just kind of hang out here. Yeah. I mean...
I think it's like an interesting place that people can go around, stop. People are really welcoming. And they can kind of just go port to port, and the weather's different. And I think sometimes it's like, why move on?
Yeah, exactly. I agree.
Could you ever live on a boat full time?
Me?
Yeah.
I I had this discussion with somebody before, and with a guy, obviously. He's like,
Obviously.
well, because what I'm about to say, but
Okay.
even I might be a terrible person, but we kind of like sarcastically agreed, like we could live on a boat all the time if our wives were in bikinis the whole time.
Okay. Okay. Wow. It's like
That'd have to be the prerequisite. Otherwise, like, I mean, why, right?
Otherwise, what?
I mean, I think you're beautiful. So,
I have zero words for that. It's just so perverted.
Okay, but
who are you?
but other than that,
Okay, well, thank you that it's me and not like multiple other women.
Yeah,
so
I'm not saying a
we'll
bunch
go.
of
Thank
women.
you.
Yeah.
But I could do it if I didn't have children. I'll go.
Would
with
I have
that
to be
one.
in a bikini?
Well, at least a G-string.
Okay.
If I have to be, you have to be. So
So
it's only fair.
people would be like, right, driving by, they'd be like, okay, yeah, that's weird.
John's brown, but underneath he's white as me. So.
Yeah. Who
Sorry.
were we talking about the other day? We were talking to the other day, like my body's brown, but my butt's still white.
Yeah.
Who's there? Somebody, hey? Like, oh, I still have a white butt. Anyways, now we're talking about my butt.
Yeah, moving on.
We were talking. How did we get down this road?
Okay, years ago. Years
sailing.
ago now. Wait, years ago we had a family that had 9 children. 9, 10, 11. Yeah, 9 children because there was 11 of them.
Oh,
Coolest
you
family.
say years ago?
Wasn't it years ago?
It was like a year and a bit ago.
Okay, it feels like years ago.
Wow, years ago. We're making us sound so old.
It's almost years ago. There is 11 of them on a catamaran.
Yep.
4 rooms or something. Like it wasn't like a yacht or anything.
Yep.
9 of them were children. Lovely family. So
They were the coolest. Yeah.
coolest
The
family
Hortons.
ever. And they came to our house for 2 weeks. And they built our shed for us.
Yeah.
And they planted like hundreds of plants for us and redid my garden. And they were so cool. They actually didn't even stay in our house because we didn't have enough room to host so many people. And I just told them, look, you don't want to. I'll feed you every day.
Mm-hmm.
And they drove from Savu every single day for 2 weeks to our house and helped us just
Build the shed and
with
plant.
life. Yeah,
Yeah.
they were so cool. And it's funny, they were, I think, gluten-free. Typically, the mom and the smallest girl didn't have gluten. And I was making them like the biggest gluten
Like
meals
pasta dishes
ever.
with garlic bread and stuff.
And the kids were just like crushing back food. Like they ate more than the Fijians normally do. And we all know that's a lot of food.
Yeah.
So I was like, wow, it's so awesome.
Well,
They
I
just
think
eat anything.
I think their mom like typically tended to like portion the meals because like when you have 9
children?
kids, hey, your grocery bill is gonna be very large.
Yeah, crazy. And on a boat, how much can you pack?
Yeah, exactly.
I think they did that for a year, and I just love them because they sold their boat, and then in New Zealand,
So they went back. They were returned to New Zealand from Fiji.
that's where they're from, and then they bought like a campground,
Mhm.
and so they now host people camping in New Zealand.
Yeah, I think the
in
campground has
cabins.
cabins on it.
Yeah.
I think it has a restaurant or something like that, some sort of amenity like that.
Yeah,
So,
but
shout
like
out to the Hortons.
cool family,
Coolest.
cool life, and they did it so they had some of their kids are becoming older teens, and they did it so they could spend time, as a family for the last couple of years before the kids moved out, and I just love that. I just thought like, oh, that's so nice to see a family like doing something out of the ordinary, just to spend quality time as a family, possibly for the last time as like a group of 11 people, because there's a lot of people to coordinate and people go off to university and start doing their own things. And honestly, and it's funny, Seva, our youngest,
Still
he's
remembers
4,
Honey.
he still remembers their youngest kid. Her name was Honey, and he always
Yeah.
says, oh mom, when are we gonna see that baby Honey? She is so cute.
It's like you guys were the same exact age.
Yeah, he always calls
They're
everybody
also
that's
baby.
like young a baby, and I'm like, oh, it's so sweet. Yeah,
That was cool.
yeah, what a good
What was the
family.
most exciting part about your week?
Well, I'm looking at him. We have a guy named Tui who's coming to stay in our house. He's doing video editing for us and filming. I don't know if you guys saw, we posted a video today about us getting a new iPhone. Just so we have a connection, weirdly enough. Our friend in Savu Savu, he had a guy that works from Apple. His name's Zaki. and he got us a new iPhone. It's kind of, it's a random connection. Super nice guy, and we just messaged him, and he hooked us up with that and brought it all the way to Fiji. So we're pretty excited to have something that we can put out better quality content for you guys, and hopefully more of it.
Yeah, so the iPhone is not for just hey, we got the newest iPhone. It's like something that we're both rocking, like
we're giving it away.
6, 7, 8 year old.
Hey Tui, you can have my iPhone 8.
yeah. So he's
it's
gonna
not
be
even the good camera.
Rocking the 14 Pro. But yeah,
we'll just be jealous of him. Like, he'll be filming us and we'll be like, so jealous. I have to be on my old phone.
Yeah,
like,
I know. He's gonna be rocking the 3 lenses and so fresh. Oh my gosh.
We're getting gypped here.
Yeah, I know. One day, baby. But no, I am so excited because this has been something that I know we've been needing to do for a long time.
And we've talked about it for probably a couple of years now.
Years, yeah, for sure.
And finding the right person, that's been so hard.
And well, we've talked about it because we know that it's the kind of thing that you should do, and you wish when you do it, you're like, how did we not do this earlier? Because we believe in the thing that makes us different than all the other people or businesses in the South Pacific is content. And everybody who puts content as a secondary thing will one day be secondary to us, because right now the biggest commodity, and for the next decade for sure, is going to be attention. And if we have the ears and the eyes, we're going to get the opportunities. So I mean, we've seen that all over Fiji. New businesses prop up. They put bunch of money into social media, and they obliterate the companies that have been around forever because they never did anything. New people coming into Fiji don't know they exist, but they're on social media. So TUI will allow us to be because we have definitely not been. I think I haven't been able to fulfill what I want with you guys, the people that we actually really love and appreciate who consume our content, because I don't just create content just for the sake of just creating content. We really appreciate that people want, it's crazy that people actually listen to this podcast, that they watch the vlogs, that they, whatever you do, it's very much appreciated, because we share this because we want everybody to be able to see, in one way, maybe it's not coming to Fiji, but maybe it's just going, you have a goal and it's going to require you to do something drastic with your life. Quit your job, propose to your girlfriend, move across the country or move somewhere else, or, say something to your boss that you really don't want to say. You can do it. We gave up everything that we had in Canada, the comfortable life, moved across the world because we believe that there's things that need to be pursued on this side of the world, and we believe that we can do it in a way that will change lives. And so the fact that you guys consume that content and listen to this is so appreciative. So TUI will allow us to ramp all that up and be consistent and be true to you guys and what we want to do. So we want to get to the point where we're doing 2 YouTube vlogs a week, because our lives are really, really unique, and I want to share that with everybody. And I want people to know hey, if you want to make a big drastic change, you can do it. This is, life's not easy, but at the end of the day, everybody has a story to tell, and this is just part of our story. And I think sharing the story, not that we're amazing people, but we're just some people who just decided to jump out and go for it.
Maybe we're a little crazy.
Yeah. We're probably just more unstable than most people. It's actually what it is.
Possibly.
Yeah.
While you were out fishing, I actually jumped on a phone call with some people that were messaging us on Facebook.
Oh.
A couple from the U.S. I'd have to look up their names again. But they were just talking to me about, on Facebook, we were messaging and just talking about farming in Fiji and how that's going for us, and just kind of some insights, because they're hoping to move to Fiji in the next 2 years. Actually, I do a fair amount of this, jumping on phone calls. I would say at least monthly, I'm on a phone call with someone random.
Yep.
Just kind of, they're talking about, is a lot of Fijians or people that have some sort of connection here that want to move home, that have been overseas that made money that want to come move back, do something similar to what we're doing. So it's been interesting having honest conversations with people and just sharing the in-depth detail of stuff that we've struggled with, that we've seen in business, how it's a lot harder than you would love to imagine.
Do they listen to the podcast?
I didn't ask them. I don't know. I should
What
probably.
do they want to do in Fiji?
They were talking about farming.
Okay.
They said sustainable farming, you know, I think for their family. And then
They want they want to bring their family here and sustain their family through
well,
farming?
so that's what I thought. And then once we jumped on the phone call, they were asking me some questions about making farming a business. So then we started talking about, I think, you know, we've talked about within this turmeric venture that we started and things like that. John and I have kind of discovered, like, okay, last year we grew 15,000 dallo and we had no buyer for it, right? I was talking to them about how we have kind of come to the conclusion that you need to find a buyer first, or you need to become the exporter yourself. Right. So depending on what you're interested in growing on a large scale in Fiji, it's really hard to find a buyer here. So you either need to be able to export it yourself and have a buyer overseas, or you need to be able to have a buyer within Fiji that you feel that you can rely on and have a good relationship with them, and then go into farming and meet their quota.
Such as Waka Private Limited. You know, I mean, we might be able to help you out in the future.
Yeah, that's why I did tell them. I said
Yep.
They weren't planning to move here until like a few years. So I said, well, like, keep an eye on us. If we have an exporting company, you could definitely grow for us. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
But
it's coming, guys.
Just
it's coming down
depending
the
on
pipeline.
what they're wanting to get into. We're working in the background just on exporting. We had some really great advice, though, recently. We were in a meeting last week, and they were talking to us, you need to secure a local market. So with the products that you have, because exporters can be, or not exporters, but the people that are buying overseas can be unreliable. And how you need to have the local market to sustain you in the weeks that you don't have someone to buy overseas. And then that way you can have a baseline within Fiji. So
it's really, the whole thing is really interesting. Like, if you're, just name a country overseas, like you go into a grocery store and you have turmeric, say, or you have like apples or whatever produce it is, like that your grocery store has not bought that from. Most turmeric in the world comes from India. Your grocery store does not have a contact in India. Your grocery store buys from a food broker who buys from a middleman who buys from a farmer, right? And so there is like a huge supply chain. So for us to come in like we had a few weeks ago and to, you know, to sell to to a middleman who sells to a broker, probably who sells to grocery stores, just the price wasn't fair, and dealing with this middleman was just a pain in the A. So we decided to
so inconsistent.
Yeah, it's just so inconsistent and just like not true to their word, whatever. So we're gonna do it better, and we got content on our side, so nobody knows about them, but they know, but people will know about us. And so that's how we're gonna go about making sure that because people are underserved in the place where we live, and there's thousands and thousands of acres of land that can be planted, fertile land that can be planted organically, even that can be shipped overseas.
Yeah, like I was speaking to a taxi driver when I was coming home to see Sevenaya, because he already came from school. There was a taxi driver that I was with, and he was talking about, yeah, like, have you seen all the land that's not planted just outside of Seaqaqa? Like, it's hundreds of acres. It's no longer utilized. And it used to be sugarcane. It used to be farmers. And our island used to have this huge infrastructure of farming. But there hasn't been, I don't know, either government funding, or there hasn't been access to buyers in the last little bit. And so farmers have been really discouraged on our side. And we can see that for ourselves. And so when people say, oh yeah, I want to move to Fiji and I'd like to farm to make money, I'm like, well, okay.
Usually that farming is kava farming,
yeah,
which is a super saturated market right now.
Yeah.
Super saturated. So it can definitely be done. And I know guys that are doing it very successfully, like the gentleman who's been buying turmeric off of us and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, but people like him control the whole supply chain, all right? So
Yeah.
he has a farm, he has an exporting license, he has a packaging and brand that gets delivered to clients. So he is not selling to somebody, he's not selling to somebody who exports, he's not selling to somebody who exports who sells it to somebody who brands it. He does the whole thing himself. That's how he does it.
Which
And
is
like,
so difficult. Like
I'm not 100% sure. I don't know his numbers. So I don't know if he's successful, but like to me, that is the way the things need to be done in Fiji.
which is hard. Like I don't want that to be the way things are done. I want to be able to jump on board with another company that is already doing it and be like, "Hey, let me handle the hard part of actually farming and you deal with the rest." But it just seems like it's not a successful financial way to do things. How are you supposed to actually make money off of that?
Well, for me, the thing is like what we get to do is because of the content, back to content, is that we get to be a company that has like a different kind of transparency around it. So even if we end up being the middleman for people, because people will need, not every single farmer, like little farmer in this area will be able to find an export market.
No.
And we don't have the time to set everybody up to export themselves. That doesn't even make sense.
No.
But what we can do is like open up the transparency to be like, hey, this is what we sell for. This is what we're buying for. And this is why we buy it for this. And like, these are what the costs are for us, so that people know like, hey, money doesn't grow on trees and there needs to be margins made in certain places for profits to be made. I just feel like people are so used to being ripped off that they don't trust anybody, even the people that they do have buying and selling relationships with.
Yeah, and like there's a spot in Fiji for an honest person that wants to do business.
Mm-hmm.
And we always talk about, an honest Christian businessman or woman can change the world
Mm-hmm.
and do so much more than just business. And if you're successful, change your area, do more for your area.
Yeah.
Make
Because the majority, whether people like it or not, the one thing that people love to work towards is money, like as like a reward, or like the way I like to look at it is as a tool. And to me, that like of the vast majority of wealth in the world is controlled by people who aren't Christians, is problematic, because like there's a bunch of people who are like, money is not the end goal. And it's like, yeah, no, money is not the end goal, but money is a tool that can change lives. And the fact that like most people, I feel like most Christians just opt out of it simply because they're like feel guilty about like talking about money or like pursuing money. And it's not like, hey, like money isn't going to bring you happiness. But what you get to do with the money can bring other people happiness. And giving gifts makes me happy, or like blessing people, or if we could open a school or open churches or open youth centers, like that would be really exciting. That'd be way more exciting than doing business.
Well, I think Christians get scared. Like there's that saying, or I don't know if it's probably in the Bible. There's that saying is that money is the root of
All evil.
all evil.
Yeah, that's
Is it?
in the Bible.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't feel like it's a saying. Like I just throw it out there all the time.
Oh my gosh.
But I think like people that are Christian or even of a religious background sometimes, we always feel like, yeah, money's not a good thing. But money can do great things. Money makes the world go round. Economies is what circulates, countries and cities and things like that. And like you have people that do not have possibly your integrity that have money. What are they doing with it? Something that John and I did before we moved to Fiji. And mind you, we have very big goals and dreams, and we do agree that first, let's look at the major, ultimate, big picture goal. What is the biggest you can be? What do you think your ultimate dream could be? How large could you get? Right? And so for us, we're like, well, wow, we're going to crush it. We're going to make millions. Maybe we'll be so rich, And then we're like, okay, actually, let's take a step back. That's stressful, being so rich. What do you do with that money? Where do you go with that? Do you just buy a yacht and ball out and have fun? Or like, how does that look? And so something that we did before we even moved to Fiji and had these aspirations were like, okay, where are we putting this money when we make it? Once we make big money, what are we doing with it?
Mm-hmm.
So John and I have like a base like plan of like, okay, when we make money, these are the things that I would be excited to do. And like one of the silly things that we kind of like thought about that we want to do is like, I'd love to build like a resort that was free for pastors, just to come holiday in, and that we would pay for
Or
them.
like an Airbnb kind of situation or whatever
Yeah,
it was. Yeah.
just like something, whatever we could afford at the time, that we could pay for them to come just have a free holiday, host them, and they would have zero expense. I think that came from, there's this camp in Canada
Yeah.
that hosts
We went to.
pastors. We stayed there. John was on the board for our church, and we were allowed to stay there. And it was just like, if you are in ministry, you were allowed to use this space to have a holiday, because mostly people in ministry don't get paid a lot of money.
Mm.
And they get burnt out because ministry is about giving, and you are giving of your time, of your energy, and
Yourself.
it is hard because you are dealing with people's, highs and their lows, and you are giving advice and you are supporting people. And so when you have no money to be able to get away and have a break and just recuperate from that, it's really difficult. So that camp was allowing pastoral people and people in ministry to come use their facility. And John and I are like, okay, if we're in Fiji, we have money. That's like a big goal of ours, is we want to have a place for people in ministry to come and just have a holiday and relax and recuperate and be able to go out and do the things that they do well and serve people. That's just something that, would make us excited about making money.
Yeah, that's just like one small thing.
That's one small thing.
Yeah.
But it's just kind of an example of like, what do you do with that money? And what I've always been told, like, if you don't use your money wisely when you're poor or when you have nothing, you will not use it wisely if you make a lot of money.
So yeah, just to be, and that I did want to touch, thanks for bringing that up. I did want to touch on that because like, it's not like, oh, once we get rich, we want to like be generous with our money. No, like, it's important right now that we're tithing, even when it's uncomfortable. It's like, oh, it hurts to take away that 10% or whatever it is, or to like give away that money to somebody who needs it or whatever. It's like, no, but that's important, because if you don't do it now, you can't just assume that you're going to, do it when it's convenient for you.
Yeah, like it's not easier once you make more money.
No. Yeah.
Like, unfortunately, I think like once you have more money, we always say money comes, money goes.
And I think it's important, like the verse that you were quoting, it doesn't say money is the root of all evil. It says the love of money is the root of all evil.
See, that's why.
Yeah. And so, no, but like, I mean, you're on the right track, but I think it's very different, because once you start holding on to money and loving it so much, you can't let it go. Like, you can't tithe that 10%. That's a problem. Because like in your like the story in the Bible of the lady who gave like out of her, she didn't have anything. Like Jesus said, like, even though she has nothing, this lady gave from like her nothingness. And so like, if you're holding on to your money when you have a little bit, multiply that by 10x that or 100x that money. Like, you think it's going to be easier to give away 100 times that? What you can't give away now? Probably not.
Yeah.
So you got to get in that routine.
And sometimes I think like money can be, okay, this is a little out there, but like money can be like a metaphor, depending on which country you come from. Like in Fiji, maybe money is harder to come by than time. Overseas, I know that time is harder to come by than money. Like, to get people's time is so difficult. They'd rather give you a check.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? And so I think like sometimes like what is most important to us, that's what the Bible is talking about. Like, what you hold close and what you love is what you need to be able to give freely. And money is easier for us overseas to be like, yeah, I don't have time for this because I'm so busy. Everybody always loves to say, I'm so busy, but I'll just give you some money. Yeah.
In the US and Canada, at least, North America, everybody's busy.
If you ask them,
hey, how are you doing?
How's your week?
Hey, let's do this. Hey, Steph, how's it going?
Oh, I'm so busy.
Oh, wow.
Like,
No,
it's
but I
just-
mean, how are you doing though?
Yeah, but like I'm so busy. Like
It's
this
not
week has
answering my
been
question.
crazy.
Anyways,
That's how, but that's how the conversation would go. And I think after a while, you're like, okay, that's nice. We're in Fiji. You notice people give up their time very freely.
when was the last time? So actually, so refreshing. Talk about this. When was the last time somebody answered with you like, "I'm so busy"?
Not since I was in Canada.
You know what? You know it's a classic thing. Actually, complete opposite. Yo, malua, which means like in Fijian, like yeah, just going slowly. That's actually I just picked that out. It's actually a thing. Like at least in our community, it's like when you ask people how are you doing, yeah, we're just going slowly. You know, just going. It's totally opposite, right?
Yeah.
Complete mind shift. Yeah.
Honestly, I always say that in Fiji, like the culture, like 85% of the time, everything's opposite. Like complete opposite.
Yeah.
And it's like it has been a hard adjustment coming here with like I guess Western views, and I'm in my 30s. I'm no longer like a teenager.
You're in your 30s.
I'm getting old.
Yeesh.
So are you?
It's old.
Congratulations.
I'm
John has
30.
back pain already. He turned 30 and
Hey,
he's
I don't have back
decrepit old
pain.
man.
Come
Just
on.
going down quickly. But I think
Just edit that out, okay?
once you get in Fiji, youth is classified up to 35. I am not a youth. Please do not put me in that category. I've lived a lot of life already. So I think like in Fiji, it's hard to adjust to a new lifestyle and traditions and things like that. And people coming here, the couple, going back to that I spoke to last week, I was telling them, look, you guys need to talk about culture. You need to talk about, family boundaries. You need to talk about your like plan on how you're going to deal with people asking you for money or asking you for things, and just be a team, because it's going to be hard on your marriage. It's going to be hard, especially for your wife or whoever is the spouse that's from overseas moving back to your
Well, it wasn't
culture.
hard for us, let's just be clear. It's been super easy, right?
Wow, so easy. Anyway, moving on from that, just
That's
if
good
you're
advice.
on the same team. John and I were on the same team. I feel like when we moved here, I told him, never expect me to be your Fiji wife.
Right.
Don't expect me to all of a sudden be a Fijian woman, because that will never happen.
Right.
And like, as much as I try,
Well, if I wanted a Fijian woman, then I would have married a Fijian woman.
yes, but
I'm
you
not
should
saying
have. But in a lot of relationships, you see people move back here, and then they expect their spouse to be what is culturally appropriate.
yeah,
It's
like I'm not saying
unrealistic.
anything against Fijian women. I'm just saying like if that's what I wanted, then that's what I should have chosen. But to have like for everybody who wants to get married or who is married, like to marry somebody and then expect them to change because their situation changes, that's divorce. That's what will happen in the end. Like you can't marry somebody and then expect them to change. Like the person you married is the person you married. You guys, will evolve over time, but to expect something different out of the person that you married than what you got when you sealed the deal is unrealistic.
Yeah.
And that's like, and usually like I remember talking to your dad about this. Like he does lots of marriage counseling and stuff. And he's like, actually guys who do get, like lots of times people get married, guys and girls, and then they like realize there's things that they don't like about their spouse and like they change it, but then their spouse changes and then they end up realizing they don't like the changed version of the person that they now with.
They're like, you're not who I.
Yeah, you're not who I met. Like it's like well, yeah, because you wanted me to change, and like if you change one part of me, it kind of changes. There's a trickle down effect, right? So like, yeah, there are, like Steph's not saying like I can never be accepting of cultural differences, or I can't do things different than I do them now. It's just like that's not what you're saying.
No, I'm just saying, like, please don't expect me to make you row every day, because I might make you pasta every second day instead.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry, Dad, but I do prefer pasta over row.
Oh, wow. You might get disowned.
No, I'm just kidding. Sorry, Steph. Oh my gosh, now my mouth is watering. I definitely need to.
Yeah, and your throat itches. Definitely.
My mouth is watering, my throat is itching. For those of you who don't know, roro is So there we have the taro root here that you've seen me harvesting maybe on a couple of like recent like posts on social media. So taro root, adalo, the leaves, you can actually eat them. And so when you
Which are poison.
well, yeah, so it must be a mild like
It has
because,
to be.
yeah, because when you cook them, I'd say 9 times out of 10 there's like a bit of an itch that like happens in your throat.
And I to all of you in Fiji, I don't eat roro because I have had an anaphylactic reaction in Canada where my throat swelled up and I couldn't breathe and I thought I was going to die.
Oh
And when I came to Fiji, I've eaten roro many times. It felt like the same thing. And I was like,
wasn't.
I think I might die. I had like this like trauma of like trauma, sorry. Of like
Trauma?
I was so scared.
Oh my
And
gosh.
I've eaten a lot, but it's so itchy. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't think people should be eating this.
Yeah, I pick that over pasta. Yeah.
Yeah. I think I'm
Especially
the one
with coconut
person
milk
maybe
and
in
fish.
like the just under 1 million people in Fiji that thinks that. So it does taste good. I'm not knocking the
Oh,
taste.
okay, yeah,
I
right.
actually like the taste.
Oh,
So that's the
it's
weird
the
thing.
effects.
I like the taste,
Right.
but the effects, I'm like, that's a hard pass for
That
me.
makes sense.
That is a little scary. So,
Right. So-
Tui over here, he thinks he can cook a non-itchy roro.
Yeah, we'll
That's
see.
what
You're gonna try it
everybody
or what?
says no.
So yeah, back to Tui. Like we're really excited to have you, man. We're really, really like it's for us. Like we've started businesses, we've done other exciting things, but by far this is like the biggest and most exciting thing I think that we've done, or that we've been able to do so far. Like we've been waiting a long time for this moment because like everybody needs to understand. Also, like Tui's moved into our house and he's like
Poor
living
Tui.
with us. Yeah. And he's going to be
We tried to warn him, and then the first day he moved in, we had like zero power,
no power and
no cell phone reception.
no
He
cell
asked me
phon
today,
reception because our booster's been
so
down.
are we gonna have solar tomorrow so I can do my laundry? And I was like, yeah, it's hand scrubbing for you, baby. Good luck with the rest of your life.
Yeah, so Tui used to work in the tourism industry, and so
Terrible.
it's like harsh reality. So we feel bad, but like yeah. So I mean, we're really excited because like it just means that we always try to like focus on like what we're good at, and I know that I'm not like really really good at like I'm not the best editor. I'm not the best with the video camera. But so to have somebody like Tui who's like has an eye for that, who's already like artistic, who will pick up things way quicker than I do, allows us all to like focus on the things that we're good at. Because I think way too often in life, and like for anybody who's listening, like don't try to like get better at the things that you're not good at. Like delegate those things to people who are good at them and focus on your strengths. So like I think I've just had to spend a lot of time personally in the last few years like I have no idea how to do X, Y, and Z. Okay, let's figure out how to do it. Whereas like I can now hand that over to Tui, who's like already operating that lane and in that mindset, meaning that like what are the things that Jonathan is good at? I get to focus more on those things, and he gets to like kill it in the content realm. And so we get to be more consistent. We get to bring you guys more content. We get to like move our businesses forward. And so I'm more excited than almost ever.
Yeah, me too. I think it'll be good as long as he can hack it just as well as the white lady over here does.
Yeah. So I was saying like, yeah, you guys need to,
It's a competition to it.
he's like, he's living with us. He's living with us. So like, and where we go, he kind of like comes along. And so we've rented the office space so that he has like a place where
have we even said we rented an office space?
Yeah, I think so.
In Seaqaqa? I don't think we have.
Oh.
And we're gonna decorate
it's a huge production studio.
Yeah, right.
It's got.
This is the smallest 1-bedroom house. It's cute. It's clean. It needs a paint job and maybe some art, and a lot of soundproofing.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So that's hopefully within the next 2 to 3 weeks. Like all the podcasts will be out of there, and you'll get this on video. So we'll have everything. Like you can either consume this the way you're doing it now, on audio, or you can watch the video releases on Facebook.
Yeah. So hopefully we'll have
YouTube.
it. I love to set timelines. So, but I'm not going to give you an early one. Let's say by next month, sometime, maybe early next month or late next month, we'll have the house all set up, and it'll have a video in it, and you can see our interesting.
Big mistake.
Really?
You said you're not going to give a timeline. And then you
Yep.
said next month. And then you should have left it next month. Okay, guys, side note.
I said early or late.
Yeah, here's how you do it.
It'll
No,
happen
but
eventually.
people hear early or late, and they just pick early. It's like, how much do you think? I know this because when I was working in the automotive industry, if people were like, how much do you think that like replacing my water pump will be? It's like, it should be like $700 to $1,000. And all they hear is 700. They just hear the lower price.
Okay.
So everybody's heard early next month.
Sorry, guys. In 5 months, we'll have a video up for you. And you guys can all enjoy watching our faces. And if I don't do my hair or my makeup, I apologize in advance. It's a hot day.
You're going to have to start doing makeup for these podcasts.
Thank goodness we have electricity. I might look like a human being again. I don't have a mirror out here, so
That's true.
You've
seen better days.
We've seen better
I'm just kidding.
days. It's true.
Okay, we're about to break this down. I want to talk about what we learned in our devotions this week.
Oh, okay.
Do you want me to start?
Yes.
So I was kind of struck. So we like to do this. We just want to talk about quickly what we learned in our devotions, is what we call just the time that we were reading the Bible. And so, yeah, because like it was written as a story. I think right now I'm working through the Old Testament. It's history, or as some people like to say, history is his story. Huh? What do you think about that?
So cheesy.
So I'm in the Old Testament right now, and it's been really, really informative. I think I haven't really enjoyed a lot of my time in the Old Testament because it's not the most applicable, and so I haven't really appreciated the stories enough, I think. But I finally finished off Genesis, and the story of Joseph is what it ends on, like the death of Joseph. Joseph, just looking back here, like we have Joseph's dreams. Jacob meets Esau. So Jacob was Joseph's father. Jacob was renamed to Israel, which is where you get the 12 tribes from. Jacob's sons. So basically, like chapter 36 to 50 is all the life of Joseph, which is like a lot of content. Joseph had a lot of content written about him. But in the end, we're at the end of the last chapter 50 of Genesis. It says, Joseph stayed in Egypt along with all his father's family. He lived 110 years and saw the third generation of Ephraim's children, which is pretty crazy. So he saw, his kids, his kids' kids, his kids' kids' kids, and his kids' 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 kids. Whoa. Also, and so we'll just skip down a little bit. Then Joseph said to his brothers, I am about to die, but God will surely come to your aid and take you up out of this land to the land he promised on oath to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And Joseph made the sons of Israel swear an oath and said, God will surely come to your aid, and then you must carry my bones up from this place. And this is the last verse. So Joseph died at the age of 110, and after they embalmed him, he was placed in a coffin in Egypt. And it's just like, you have this very, very detailed account of Joseph's whole life, and then in the end, it's like, yeah, Joseph died at the age of 110, and then they just wrapped him up, treated him nicely, and they put him in a coffin. And it's like, I know I'm not quite at Ecclesiastes yet, but I have a very like ecclesiastical like view of this whole, like, people like in Genesis, you just realize like life is just like, well, it just comes and goes, and like eventually you can be like one of the most influential people in history, and then you just die and life moves on. And I think that was really made aware to me this week when I saw a post by Alex Hormozy on Instagram, and he said like it's been a month and a half since the Queen died, and she was one of the richest people in the world and ruled like the kingdom of Britain. And this is the first time that you've thought about this post is the first time that you thought about her since she's passed away like a month and a half ago or whatever it was. And I'm like, whoa, it's so true. Like the Queen was alive and reigned forever and was very wealthy and was very popular, and she was in the news every once in a while. She was the Queen, And like she died. It's literally since her funeral. I haven't even thought about her. Like life will just become and gone just like that. And so it's like, what is the legacy that you leave behind? And sometimes that greatest legacy is like what you give to your kids and like the change that they make in the world. And like, because like eventually like our story's over. And so that's why I'm excited about content, because like we're going to die. These videos, this podcast will live past us. Isn't that a weird thought? Like what we're saying today will exist out there after we die.
Don't screw it up.
Yeah. I'll probably screw it up. What do you got to say?
Funny. It wasn't something actually I was reading this week or anything like that. It was something I was talking about with someone that like, I think this is why it's good for us to read our Bible, to have some scripture memorized,
Right.
To refer back to in conversation. So this scripture that I looked up for reference is in Ephesians 4. It says, therefore, each of you must put off falsehoods and speak truthfully to your neighbor, for we are all members of one body. And then it says, in your anger, do not sin. Do not let the sun go down while you are still angry. The part I'm referring to is the part that it is, in your anger, do not sin. So I was speaking to someone, not going to say names, just going to give generalities because
I'd love a name.
I'd love not to embarrass anybody. So
good.
there was someone I was speaking to this week about sexual abuse that's happening in their family in one of the villages around here.
Okay, fair enough.
And I was saying, we were talking about, you know, how you process that and how people should be speaking about this and not to be like the shameful thing that people can address. That if sexual abuse is happening within families or in villages or in areas, that it shouldn't be something hidden.
Can you read your verse again?
Oh, okay. Just one sec.
I just can't remember it. Or to remember the part that you're talking about?
The part that
Put
we're
off
talking about
falsehoods.
is in your anger, do not sin.
In your anger, do not sin. What does it say before that?
It says, therefore, each of you must put off falsehood and speak truthfully to your neighbor. We are all members of one body. So this all kind of refers to the same thing, but just in your community, you should be speaking truth, and that you should not be hiding from truth, and that I was saying to this person I was speaking to, I said, you are allowed to be angry, and people are allowed to be angry about this because this person has been defiled, and we are allowed to be angry about that, but you are not allowed to sin in your anger. So there's a difference between be angry. This is disgusting. This child has been defiled and it is repulsive and we should be angry. But while you are angry, do not sin.
Right. But be productive.
And be productive and talk about it and actually speak truth into the situation. And don't allow this to continue because that is disgusting. And I was referring back to a story in the Bible where Jesus went into the temple and the temple was being defiled. People were selling things and he was angry and he threw over tables and he rained like his anger in there over the defiling of his temple. And I said, like, think about how much more angry Jesus would be over the defiling of this child. And we were just talking about, like, apparently, you know, this is a common thing, I have no idea how common it is, but from speaking with people, this does happen. And it's something that is covered in shame and people don't speak about it. And it's horrifying to hear because a lot of times the victim is blamed. The young person that has the abuse happen to them is blamed for that abuse. That's wrong, especially if it's a kid. They don't know
to the light, baby.
Yeah, well, they don't know what's happening to them. There's an older person that is doing that to them, and that is so wrong. And yet, especially within female abuse, they are told that they are the problem. That let's say they're sleeping in their underwear because they're hot in their room. That's their privacy. And they feel like, some women have told me, oh, well, I felt like I was, maybe I dressed inappropriately. They were in the privacy of their own room, and someone came in and did something inappropriate to them.
Don't come check on me in my room.
Yeah. But like, it's something we should be speaking about because it's wrong. And that's so, it's so
Yeah,
disgusting.
what I mean when I say bring it to the light is like literally start a conversation about it.
Start talking about it.
Because like you don't have to have the exact laws in place and know exactly how you're going to lawyer this person up. Literally bring it to the light. Bring it to, like, Jesus is the light. So like expose the darkness to the light by just raising it up.
Yeah.
And starting the conversation. That will sometimes be enough. If there's something uncomfortable that you need to talk about with somebody, talk about it.
And
just talk about it. You might not have the solution, but just like even with a spouse, like we've had hard conversations before, and it's been like you've just like mentioned like really, or me mentioned like softly like, hey, what about this? And it's like, oh, okay, I know you're aware of it now. That needs to stop.
Yeah.
Right?
And I think like within, like, I can't speak for the entirety of Fiji, but I think a lot of people try to cover these things up. They don't want to talk about it. And I think it should be something that's encouraged within families, that we talk about, hey, this is your body. That's your private parts. And there is no shame in speaking about these things, sex or whatever that circulates around, but we need to be able to be aware of what's going on in our own households. We need to be aware of what's happening with our children. And if something bad's happening to our children, we need to speak out about it, because as parents and guardians and other adults around, it's our responsibility to check and protect our children. Mm-hmm. And I think like that, the shame that happens in communities or families or whatever just needs to be cast out. Because if we look at culture, sure, maybe culturally shameful. Is our culture of Fiji, or is it of the Bible? And does Jesus love the little children? Yes, he does. So we need to protect those children. I think that's just something that, like, well, I've been talking a lot about this week, and I think it's good that, you know, we talk about it more and more and more. And sex is from God. God gave it to us as a gift. It's a beautiful thing as long as it's used appropriately. So I think that's just something that we need to remember. It's not a shameful thing. It can be a beautiful, wonderful thing.
In the confines of marriage.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. On that topic.
Such like a heavy topic.
It's so dark and it's so heavy.
Okay, anyway, we always play a relationship game at the end. This is
Here's
just
the question.
John and I bought. Shh. Hey, I'm talking.
No.
Yeah. No.
Anymore.
It's something we played just to open up conversation. This is the question of the night.
Did you make any assumptions about me based on my age? If so, what were they? So we play this game every week, and it's a game that we play like sometimes in the privacy of our own house to just start because a lot of times you just end up scrolling social media and it's just silliness. So this game just presents us with different questions that we get to ask each other that can sometimes spark conversations. So did you make any assumptions about me based on my age? And if you did, what were they?
I thought you were too young.
Yeah, but that was just like, what about me? Like, what about me was too young?
Okay, so...
Like how ripped I was? Like how attractive I was? Or...
So we started dating quite young. I was 19. John was 17. I remember telling my aunt, I don't think I can date him. He's too young to date.
He's like, so attractive?
I think he's, like, 17 is just too immature.
Too immature?
Well, that wasn't actually based off of you as a person. You were the oldest man in a 17-year-old's body. Really. But I just kind of had thought, like, I've dated and mostly older guys.
Wow.
And they don't have
moving on.
They don't have their life together. How can I date a 17-year-old child and actually expect him to be a man? That was kind of the conflict I had. Okay. And my aunt was like, no, like, look at him. He's fabulous. Like, he's fantastic. Like, you definitely have to date him. Wow. And she loved you because you brought her... You, on our first date, you might not remember this, you brought flowers, not for me, but for my aunt.
I did?
You did. And so you had her. That was very smart because she had your back. Yes,
dude. Okay, to all my boys out there, okay? If you guys are like gonna go pick up your girl for a date or something, just bring the mom flowers. Bring the dad a case of beer. I don't know.
Okay,
Dad?
don't risk that in Fiji. I don't know. Well, I feel like that beer thing would not. That's not going to go over well for you. Ignore that advice.
I definitely wasn't thinking about
You may
Fiji.
get thrown into jail somehow by some twist of fate from the father.
I did bring your auntie flowers, eh?
Yeah.
Why did I do that?
I
didn't even have anybody. There was no advice there, guys.
Jon thinks all of a sudden he's like so proud of
I'm
himself.
so proud of myself right now.
He's like the guru of dating. He was so green, guys. That was the one smooth thing that he did. So
haters gonna hate.
So yeah, that was my bias against your age. I was just a little concerned about your maturity level, but yeah, it paid out well. So, and how about you?
Did I make any assumptions about you based on your age?
You did. I know that. You thought I was old.
I thought you were old. I thought you were hot and old, which is fine. I mean, I like the look of a older lady.
I mean, I was 19, just FYI, everybody. You thought I was like some old married woman.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, I think maybe because I was like an old soul in a young body. Maybe that's why I was like naturally attracted to you knowing that you were, or assuming that you were older than me. But I didn't really make any assumptions on it. I was kind of like, you were still dealing with like a previous breakup, which is probably hard for me. Probably it was the hardest for me.
Just keep leveling up. It was awful.
So yeah, so like, I mean, like you were going through things that I hadn't gone through. So, I mean, just if anybody cares or knows, like Stephanie was my first ever girlfriend, and I was your first boyfriend, and that's awesome.
Yeah, no. Cute, but no.
Yeah, so I mean, I didn't really have any thoughts about it. I know. I just knew you're older. I knew that you're hot. That's it. And then we got to know each other. We obviously hung out a bunch before we started dating, but I think it was like the visual cues that got me.
Do you know what scared me the most is like the first actual date you took me on, like the day after you asked me to be your girlfriend.
Being the first day.
The first day. Then you told me that same day, I love you.
I did.
And I just...
Guys, put it all out there, guys. First date, tell the girl you love her, okay? I'll say it.
I just laughed at him, and I was like, no, you don't. Take that back. Because
so
I was like,
harsh.
Poor boy has zero idea and just like is so infatuated with me.
So harsh.
And like doesn't know what love is. I'll just like give him a pass and he could take it back and we'll move on like this never happened. And then Jon was like, no, I do love you. And said it to me for probably 7 months until I said it to him back. And a few times I was so rough. I was so harsh with you. I was like, yeah, I love you too. And then I was like, wait, not really. Not like that, though. I remember doing that.
Literally be like, no, guys. Or you guys. You're like, actually, sorry, I didn't mean that. I'm like,
yeah, because you know what I was like, I love you. And you're like, yeah, I love you too. And then I'm like, wait.
I was like,
not like that,
took
though.
That away. Because you'd say it. I'd be like, she said, and you'd be like, I don't love you. Actually, I take that back. I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna go and cry on my bed now for the next 3 weeks and see you next time.
Well, okay, to just give you a smidgen of context, I've had a few guys say I love you, and then down the road you're like, yeah, you said it too early. And I was coming out of a very serious breakup, and I was like, I'm not ready to say I love you to anybody. And Jon was like, first day. And I was like,
I'm ready to say I love you.
And I was like, oh, you're
everybody.
just one of those. Like, congratulations. So he had to kind of prove it. And then once I took it very serious. Like, I'm not going to say I love you just as like a whim. If I love you.
Say I love you. Just
I am committed to you.
Girls are ready for it. Girls are waiting for your love. Say I love you. Hey guys, this episode was brought to you by Fresh Tea+Coffee in Seaqaqa. If you're ever on your way from Sub-Sub to Lambasa, why don't you stop on in, grab a coffee. Anyways, anything else to say, Steph?
Pizza's coming soon.
All right.
I love you.
Can't wait for pizza.
Okay.
Until next time. Night. Peace. We're out.
Bye.